Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our Riyaadhus Saaliheen class. Tonight, inshallah, we are doing basically at most we'll be touching on two ahadith, but one short, one very long, but an interesting one nonetheless. So, without further delay, let us begin. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasoolullaah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we stopped on at the end of hadith number 28. We're starting from hadith number 29, which is وعن أسامة بن زيد بن حارثة رضي الله عنهما مولى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وحبه وابن حبه رضي الله عنهما. It's reported by Hazrat Usama ibn Zayd ibn Haritha رضي الله عنهما. Now, Hazrat Usama was a child who was born in the lifetime of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of those children that were born Muslim. You know, unlike many of the others. In fact, his father, Hazrat Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu, was one of the first Muslims. So he comes from a noble household. Hazrat Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu was owned by Hazrat Khadija radiallahu anha, and she gave Hazrat Zayd to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam set him free. But the connection between Hazrat Zayd and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was such that the people used to consider Hazrat Zayd radiallahu anhu as the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they would call him as such. They would call him Zayd ibn Muhammad. And on account of this, Allah revealed an ayah of the Quran to say that, you know, that when you adopt a child, you cannot call him by the name of the adopted father, because now if you say he's the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it would have different you know, things to consider at the end of the day. The ramifications of such things have long-reaching effects. That is why, even though Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had some sons, but they all passed away in infancy. So to clarify that point, Allah said, furthermore, even if you look from the point, Hazrat Zainab radiallahu anha, who married Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was previously married to Hazrat Zayd radiallahu anhu. So if it was your adopted son is your son, then it's like you are marrying the daughter, the ex-wife of your own son. So, you know, there's lots of things like that. But in any case, so Hazrat Zayd radiallahu anhu was known as the beloved of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his wife was Hazrat Baraka binti Sa'laba radiallahu anha, who was also beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, if you read up her history herself, and then the child from that marriage was Hazrat Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Usama ibn Zayd, and he was so beloved by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that at the time when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was passing away, he was appointed as the commander of the army of the Muslims, and he was at that young teenage age. But in any case, so Hazrat Usama ibn Zayd radiyallahu anhu, he reports this hadith. He says, "Arsalat bintu Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam inna ibni qad ihtudira fashhadna." So he said he was still a youngster at the time, very young. And he said that one of the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a message to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that inna ibni, my son, qad ihtudira, that he's in the he's in the throat of death. Fashhadna. So come to the house, come and be with us and the family. That's the first point over here. Who was this daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? There's a bit of ikhtilaf amongst the ulama, but the majority of the ulama are of the opinion that this was Hazrat Zainab radiyallahu anha, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another opinion says that it was what you call is now the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that was married to Hazrat Uthman radiyallahu anhu, and that it was Hazrat Uthman radiyallahu anhu's child being spoken about here. But that is not so well accepted of an opinion. But in any case, the most authentic and most reliable is saying that it is the child of Hazrat Zainab radiyallahu anha. Now, who is this child? There's two things in this regard. Two things. Number one, you find two different narrations, or at least one narration and one statement from the ulama. In this narration, it says her son. There's another narration which mentions her daughter. Now, her daughter was Hazrat Umama radiallahu anha. And if you read in the hadith, Hazrat Umama radiallahu anha was beloved by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are various interpretations. The one narration now which mentions specifically it was Hazrat Umama radiallahu anha. The problem is that she lived on. She didn't pass away in infancy. So the ulama say that we wouldn't be, even though there is some ulama do hold that opinion, other ulama say no, it was another child by the name of Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, the son of Hazrat Zainab radiallahu anha, and that is the one that passed away. But whatever the case may be, the narration here does not clarify that point, because it was simply the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the grandchild that was passing away. So she said that my son is like ihtidar, from the word hadara, hadir, present, but here it means like death is present around him. So come visit us. So فأرسله يقرئ السلام ويقول إن لله ما أخذ وله ما أعطى وكل شيء عنده بأجل مسمى فلتصبر ولتحتسب. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a message saying, give her salam and say that إن لله ما أخذ, that for Allah is what Allah has given, وله what He takes, for Allah is that which He takes, وله ما أعطى, and for Allah is what He gives, وكل شيء عنده بأجل مسمى, and everything that Allah has given has a stipulated and set time. So in other words, this is also one of the du'as a person say when somebody has passed away. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, tell her, فَلْتَصْبِرْ وَلْتَحْتَسِبْ, let her have sabr and hope for the reward by Allah. فأرسلت إليه تقسم عليه ليأتينها. So when the message was relayed to her, she sent a message back again saying that she take it, like she asked, implores by Allah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam should still come. She'll make the sabr and everything, but she still wants Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be present. فقام ومعه سعد بن عبادة ومعاذ بن جبل وأبي بن كعب وزيد بن ثابت ورجال رضي الله عنهم. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood up there and then, and with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this Mubarak gathering was Hazrat Sa'd ibn Ubadah, Hazrat Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Hazrat Ubay ibn Ka'b, and Hazrat Zayd ibn Thabit, and others as well. These were the, as you could say, the stars of the Ansar radiyallahu anhum. They were there. So they came with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the house. فَرُفِعَ إِلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم الصبي, and the child was brought to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَأَقَعَدَهُ فِي حِجْرِهِ, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam put the child in his lap. The child was still, as you can tell, very small. Sabi is the word which is being used, which shows it's a very small child, not some 25-year-old, 17-year-old, not that age. We're talking about, you would say from very young. I mean, from birth, an infant, if I were to use the most correct English word, it was an infant. So up until a young age of, say, about 4 years old or so, that small age, that child was brought and put in the, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put the child in his lap. وَنَفْسُهُ تَقَعْقَعُ. This narration mentions وَنَفْسُهُ تَقَعْقَعُ. تَقَعْقَعُ, if you look over here, means تَتَحَرَّكُ وَتَضْطَرِبُ, that his soul was like moving, and as you would say, that, like, you could hear his soul basically being removed from his body. That's the one opinion. Another version of the narration mentions wa nafasuhu. Nafsuhu means his soul. Nafasuhu means his breath, his breathing. So wa nafasuhu taqa'aqa'u, that his breathing was labored. It was like, which basically boils down to the same thing, because you could hear the difficult breathing as the soul was coming out. So nafsuhu and nafasuhu in this year basically comes down to the same thing. Now, before I go any further, this particular narration, I may mention that some say it was, if you look at the other narration which says it was Hazrat Umama radiallahu anha. Now, about if it was Hazrat Umama radiallahu anha, how the ulama answer that? Because obviously, if she lived on, then there's some sort of contradiction. So they say no. The narration does not explicitly say that the child passed away. So they say that the child was extremely sick. The mother thought that the child was going to die, but the child did not die. So that's how they interpret it. But we say that yes, the child did pass away, and it was a different child which was being spoken about. But any case, so while Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was holding the child like this here, and the child was breathing his last in this manner, فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, and the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam began to shed tears. فقال سعد, Hazrat Sa'ad ibn Ubadah radiallahu anhu, he said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ma hadha, that Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what is this? فقال هذه رحمة جعلها الله تعالى في قلوب عباده. That Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this is mercy which Allah has put in the hearts of his servants. In other words, he was asking that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, why are you crying? In other words, what you get to understand here, two things. The first is that the issue فَلْتَصْبِرْ وَتَحْتَسِبْ, to clarify the point that having sabr and hoping for the reward does not mean that there is a harm in crying. You can cry, you can feel the hurt and things. That does not equate losing hope or having bad thoughts about Allah. Not at all. Because even when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's own son passed away, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam cried and said, إِنَّ الْعَيْنَ لَتَدْمَعْ وَإِنَّ الْقَلْبَ لَيَحْزَنْ وَلَا نَقُولُ إِلَّا مَا يَرْضَى رَبُّنَا. That the eyes shed tears and the heart is sad, but we don't say anything but that which pleases Allah. So which shows that when you are sad, when some difficulty befall you, there is not a harm from a Shari'i perspective to cry. That does not mean, oh, you're crying so you have no sabr. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's the first point. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam clarified that. But there's the second part behind it as well, which is that for many of the as the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, some of them were from Bedouins, not Hazrat Sa'ad radiallahu anhum and them, but there were many that were Bedouins. So shedding tears and showing emotion and stuff like this here, that was something they never used to do. It was something strange. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also put forth that from the characteristics of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to also have emotion, not to be a robot. So we get both of these things from this hadith here. It is a mercy which Allah has put in the hearts of His servants. وفي رواية في قلوب من يشاء من عباد في قلوب من شاء من عباده وإنما يرحم الله من عباده الرحماء متفق عليه. In another narration, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it is a mercy which Allah puts in the hearts of those that He wishes of His servants. And وإنما يرحم الله, Allah has mercy on those servants of His that are merciful. Like our famous hadith, al-hadith al-rahmat al-musalsal bil-awwaliya, as we know in the tasalsul, the hadith al-rahma, al-rahimuna yarhamuhum al-rahman tabaraka wa ta'ala, irhamu man fil ard yarhamkum man fis sama. That al-rahimuna yarhamuhum al-rahman, those who have mercy, Allah has mercy upon them, if you were to simplify the hadith in a nutshell. So the point is that being merciful is, there's multiple facets and aspects to mercy. I don't want to take too long, we'll never get through the next hadith. But the aspect in this case, how was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being merciful to the child? Because the child was passing away. So what it shows is that being merciful to people, being merciful in general, being soft and kind and things, all of this is part of what a believer has as part of his characteristics. Not only just kind to others, but you exude this whole feeling and everything of mercy. That is the way of a believer, and that is the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we did do the word وَمَعْنَا تَقَعْقَعُ تَتَحَرَّكُ وَتَضْطَرِبُ, which means to move and to like the difficulties as the soul is coming and the breath is laboring. That is what is being referred to. Okay, so that's the hadith 29. Let's see how far we can get with hadith 13. We've got a couple of minutes only left on this class, so I would have liked to have spent 45 minutes on this one hadith. I think last time I probably spent that long or longer on this one hadith. So we're going to have to go a little bit of a rushed version, because we do the hadith in portions. We'll see how time goes. Okay, let's rather do it in portions if the time runs short, rather than cutting short on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so hadith number 30. وعن صهيب رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. Hazrat Suhaib radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam from this point begins a story. What is the story? You may have come across it before as the Ashabul Ukhdud, the people of the ditch, people of the trench. It's mentioned in the Quran. قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود. You know, you'll read that portion, but without Allah mentioning details of the story, Allah just touches about the Ashab al-Ukhdud. So you may have come across it by that name. Maybe you came across it as well as the boy and the king. You may, I mean, people have had many times the story translated and stuff of the sort. So this is the same incident. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam begins by saying, كان ملك في من كان قبلكم وكان له ساحر فلما كبر قال للملك إني قد كبرت فبعث إلي غلاما أعلمه السحر. That Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, in the nation that came before you, there was a king. And he had a magician, a sahir. And when the magician became old, he told the king that I've become old now, you know, so send me a youngster so that I can teach him sihr. I can teach him to make him the next magician. Now, two things here. One, when did this take place? This took place in the after Hadrat Isa alayhi salam, in the time of what you would say the Christians, when the Ahlul Kitab were still the Muslims of the time. So this took place during that time between Hadrat Isa alayhi salam and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That's the first thing. The second thing is with regards to the Sahirin. It was a habit. The kings used to love, I mean, Fir'aun and them all, they all had their magicians around them. Not you know, those make a card trick type magicians, but those that can actually do real harmful type sihr. So فبعث إليه غلاما يعلمه. So a boy was chosen and the boy was sent to the sahir so that he can teach him. وكان في طريقه إذا سلك راهب فقعد إليه. And on the road from the boy's house to the magician, he came across a rahib, a monk. And this is what proves the fact that this was after the time of Hadrat Isa alayhi salam, because they were rahibs, monks, and the monks were not there in the time before Hadrat Isa alayhi salam. So you know, he passed by a monk فقعد إليه. So he went to go sit and hear what the monk had to say. وسمع كلامه فأعجبه. He heard his speech and he liked it very much, what the monk was preaching about belief in Allah. And this was a monk who was not some crazy Trinitarian type thing, having kufr like that. No, these were Christians, or at least I should say they were the Muslims of the time, these ones, not kufr believing type people. That's the one thing. The second thing I wanted to touch on, which I will touch on later on, but anyway, is that فَبَعَثَ إِلَيْهِ غُلَامٌ. A ghulam. What is a ghulam? We translate it as a boy, but a ghulam, all of these things, a tifl, sabi, ghulam, shab, rajul, you know, shaykh, these are all translated in English and often are given the like made as though they are cement, as if they are synonyms, but in reality they are not. So a ghulam is used for a child from the age of birth up until the child time before he reaches the age of puberty. So what you understand from this hadith itself already is that this was a youngster, a boy that had not yet reached the age of puberty. Any case, so he came and he sat and he listened and he liked what the monk was preaching about the belief in Allah. وَكَانَ إِذَا أَتَى السَّاحِرَ مَرَّ بِالرَّاهِبِ وَقَعَدَ إِلَيْهِ. So he used to make it a habit whenever he would go in the day to go and visit the sahir, the magician, to go and do his magician lessons. He would pass the house or the place where the monk was, and he would sit by him and learn something of the deen of Allah from him. Then فَإِذَا أَتَى السَّاحِرَ ضَرَبَهُ. When he would come to the magician would hit him, because it's like, you're supposed to be here early, you're coming here so late, why are you late? And he would beat him. So فشكى ذلك إلى الراهب فقال إذا خشيت الساحر فقل حبسني أهلي وإذا خشيت أهلك فقل حبسني الساحر. So the boy he complained now to the monk about this that was taking place, that the magician was hitting him the whole time now because he was coming late. So the monk told him that what you should do is this: when you are fearing the magician, when the magician asks you why are you late, then say habasani ahli, I was held back by my family, there was some family things going on, so that's why I'm late. وَإِذَا خَشِيتَ أَهْلَكَ, and if you are coming now late back home to your family and your family asking why are you so late, you're supposed to have been here earlier. Your classes should have ended by the magician. Then say habasani as-sahir. Say that the magician kept me back extra. Why? What's the purpose of this? The first is that the this was a command from the king. So if the family knows that the magician was holding him, they were not going to do anything about it. It would mean rising up against the king to even say a word about it. So he was safe from that angle. And if he told the sahir that, it was for my family purposes, the sahir would understand, well, yeah, maybe you got to milk the goat or something, and you got to do some things for the family before you can come through. It's okay, it's understandable. But if you just dilly-dallying and wasting time, then you'll get beats. So any case, that's how it goes. So that he started using this. He would tell the sahir this, and he would tell his family that when he happened to run late. فبينما هو على ذلك إذا أتى على دابة عظيمة قد حبست الناس فقال اليوم أعلم الساحر أفضل أم الراهب أفضل. So he said, or at least Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, while he was in this state, that he was going between the sahir and the learning from the sahir and learning from the monk. But obviously, they were teaching contradictory things. One was teaching belief in Allah, and the other one was teaching kufr and shirk, what is magic. So while he was in this state, one day he was traveling on the road, and he passed by a big creature, which had which was holding the people back. Now, what is this creature? Different ulama have different interpretations as to what this creature is. Some say it was a big beast, like like some like you can understand a sort of lion type thing. Not a lion, but I mean that would be tiny. But some sort of big, strange creature had come. قد حبست الناس. It was preventing the people, holding the people back. People couldn't travel because this beast was in the way. That's one interpretation. Other ulama, they say that it was some huge sea creature. So it was alive. What type of sea creature it was? Some type of huge whale, some type of I'm not going to call it a leviathan or one of those type of serpents from the sea serpents and kraken and all those sort of things from mythology. But anyway, it was some sort of huge creature, whether it was a land creature or a sea creature. At the end of the day, it was a huge creature holding the people back. So he came across this creature and he said, today I will come to know who is better, the sahir or the rahib, the monk or the magician. So فأخذ حجرا, he took a stone. فقال اللهم إن كان أمر الراهب أحب إليك من أمر الساحر فاقتل هذه الدابة حتى يمضي الناس. He took the stone, and one small stone. He made this dua upon the stone. He said, "Oh Allah, if the teachings of the monk is more beloved to you than that which the magician is teaching, then kill this creature so that the people can pass by and travel as normal." فرماها فقتلها ومضى الناس. So he threw the serpent with the stone, or this creature with the stone, and the creature died from one stone, and the people were able to pass by. Obviously, it was a miracle, like miracle comes, when Hazrat Dawood alayhi salam threw a pebble through the head of David and Goliath, as you know the story, through the head of Jalut, which obviously a normal person's arm can't do it. But that was وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You didn't throw when you threw, but it was Allah who threw. So in the case here, the boy threw it, but Allah is the giver of life and death, and Allah caused this creature to die. So immediately he came to know that what Allah loves is the beliefs of the rahib, not that of the magician. The magician is on kufr and the rahib is on the right path. So, a second point over here, that was the one point. The second thing is that the one thing about this boy, there was no place for doubt in him whatsoever. When people talk about being able to walk on water, and there's a story in this regard where there's a man and he's teaching all his life, and he's an old man, and he teaches a young boy, and he says that, if you say Bismillah, you can walk on water. And one day the boy and this man, this teacher, they walking and they come past a river and the river is in flood. So the boy say, "Come now, teacher, let us say Bismillah and cross the river." So the boy says Bismillah and he walks across the river and he gets on the other side and the teacher, the old man, is still standing on the other side and he say, "Come, say Bismillah." And the man say, "I teach it to you, but that same amount of yaqeen and iman and tawakkul is not in my heart. So if I say Bismillah, I won't be able to walk on the water." So that was, like, I wouldn't say it's that the Rahib here had no yaqeen and tawakkul, but this boy, his yaqeen and iman was on an unprecedented level. There was no hesitancy and doubt in him whatsoever. He believed that if I say this, Allah will do anything. So he did this, he killed the creature, he came to the monk and he told him, فَأَتَى الرَّاهِبَ فَأَخْبَرَهُ. He came to the monk and he told him, فَقَالَ لَهُ الرَّاهِب. And the monk now told him, أَيْ بُنَيْ أَنْتَ الْيَوْمَ أَفْضَلُ مِنِّي. He told him, "Oh, my son, today you are better than me. قَدْ بَلَغَ مِنْ أَمْرِكَ مَا أَرَى." I can see the state that you are in. Because he realized and he knew himself that Allah is the doer of everything. And for Allah to accept your dua just like this, it means that you are greatly accepted by Allah. So he say, "You are better than me." Today, you're going to get somebody a teacher who's going to say, "You better than me." Like, who are you? What do you know? I'm always better than you. But this was what sincerity, that, "Oh, my son, today you are better than me. And I can see the state that you have reached." But he say, وَإِنَّكَ سَتُبْتَلَى فَإِنِ ابْتُلِيتَ فَلَا تَدُلَّ عَلَيَّ. Most definitely you are going to be put to trial. And if you are put to trial and test, then don't give me up. In other words, don't say you know me or that you learned by me and things like this. Because obviously he knew what was going to happen. وَكَانَ الْغُلَامُ يُبْرِئُ الْأَكْمَهَ وَالْأَبْرَصَ وَيُدَاوِي النَّاسَ مِنْ سَائِرِ الْأَدْوَاءِ. After the boy had done this and killed this creature, he stopped going to the magician because he knew this was a waste of time, kufr. And in this newfound iman and this absolute belief in Allah that he had, it started causing miracles to happen at his hands because of the iman that he had. So he used to be able to heal the blind. He would be able to restore the sight of the blind and cure the lepers. And these were like the biggest of the sicknesses at the time. People who were blind, nothing could bring it back. And those who had leprosy, they were basically put in leper colonies to die. So he was able to cure them. And وَيُدَاوِي النَّاسَ مِنْ سَائِرِ الْأَدْوَاءِ. And he could cure people of all illnesses. فَسَمِعَ جَلِيسٌ لِلْمَلِكِ كَانَ قَدْ عَمِيَ. One of the courtiers of the king, he heard about that there's this person who can cure any type of illness, and he was someone who had gone blind. فَأَتَاهُ بِهَدَايَا كَثِيرَةٍ. He came with a lot of gifts to the boy. فَقَالَ مَا هَاهُنَا لَكَ أَجْمَعُ. Like, all of this, I'm giving you everything. إِنْ أَنْتَ شَفَيْتَنِي. If only you can cure me. Because again, it was what this courtier believed. Like many of the people, they believed that he was learning by the sahir because that's what was public. He was learning by the rahib in secret. So if you can cure me, I'll give you everything. فقال إني لا أشفي أحدا إنما يشفي الله تعالى فإن آمنت بالله تعالى دعوت الله فشفاك. This is what you call a miracle. Today people think, you're a saint, you're a Sufi, you can bring miracles about on your hand. And there is no such thing in the deen. No person can cause a miracle. I make a miracle, I do this, I do that. No. So this boy said that I can't cure anybody. I don't cure anyone. But it is Allah that cures. So if you believe in Allah, I will make dua, I will ask Allah, and Allah will cure you. فآمن بالله تعالى فشفاه الله تعالى. So the courtier said, then I believe in Allah. He brought iman in Allah, he made the dua, and Allah cured him. He turned his eyesight to him. فأتى الملك فجلس إليه كما كان يجلس فقال له الملك من رد عليك بصرك قال ربي. So this courtier now came, and this was again when iman had entered the heart of a person, with leaving no room for doubt, because he brought iman sincerely, and Allah returned his eyesight, and he knew that nobody could just do a thing like this, which means this is definitely the true religion, and that Allah is the Lord of everyone and everything. So after being cured, he came now to the king, back into his the court of the king, and he said, like how we used to say before, and فقال له الملك, and the king told him, or looked at him, and he's like, Man radda alayka basara. Who returned your eyesight to you? I mean, you were blind. How come you can see now? So he said, Rabbi, my Lord, return my eyesight. Okay, that's time running short. So we're going to end on this point here, inshallah. قال ولك ربي ولك رب غيري. So the king asked him, you have a God besides me. I am your God. There's no God besides me. Who is this God you are talking about? So قال ربي وربك الله. The man told him, my Lord and your Lord is Allah. فأخذه فلم يزل يعذبه حتى دل على الغلام. So the king took him and they started torturing him, and they tortured him to the point that he gave up the boy, and he said, it is that boy that was learning by the Sahir. It's him. He's the one who did this. So that's how he gave him up basically under the tortures that he was going through. فجيء بالغلام فقال له الملك أي بني قد بلغ من سحرك ما تبرئ الأكمه والأبرص وتفعل. So the boy was now brought to the king after he was given up. So the king sent for him and they brought him. So the king told him, oh my son, I've heard great things basically about your sihr, the magic that you are able to do. I hear that you are able to cure the blind and the lepers, and you can do this and do that. All this, you become a powerful sorcerer in your own right. But he said, فقال إني لا أشفي أحدا إنما يشفي الله تعالى. The boy, he's a boy. He's not even reached the age of puberty. He's standing here in front of the king who holds, so to say, the power over everyone in the land, like Fir'aun. And he say, I don't cure anyone. It is Allah Ta'ala who cures, not me. فأخذه فلم يزل يعذبه حتى دل على الراهب. So he took the boy and they started torturing the boy until he gave up the monk. Because obviously the king knew, you're a boy, where do you come on these things? Yeah, somebody had to tell it to you. It obviously was not the Sahir, so who was it? So under the tortures that he went through, he eventually said, I learned from the Rahib. And that's where we will stop for tonight, inshallah ta'ala. In our next class, next week, inshallah ta'ala, we will continue on from after the Rahib has now been given up. We'll do the next part of the story. But that being that, we end on this point here, inshallah ta'ala. Until next time, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.